crew. So I think we got about
Excellent.
80 or 90 people on. So
Fantastic. Good morning, everyone. Or
thank you
afternoon where you
so
are.
much for joining us, especially on vacation. Too kind. Too kind.
It's my pleasure.
So for those of you who have never been on a master class before, let me just kind of quickly give you guys the format. So we're going to spend about the first 30 minutes, and I've got a bunch of questions for Brandi, and then we leave the last 30 minutes for you guys to ask Q&A. I have a couple people that have already kind of raised their hand and said that they have questions, but what you do is just raise your hand or put something in chat and say that you've got a question, and then Kathy will let me know and we'll let you ask your question directly to Brandi. So one other piece of housekeeping, our next masterclass, if you want to put it in your calendar, is July 13th. It's with Jason Van Camp. Jason is on my board. Jason is a West Point grad. He played football at Army. He's a decorated Green Beret. He's the best-selling author of this book, Deliberate Discomfort, which is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. And he's the chairman of Mission 60, and he's also the executive director of a nonprofit called Warrior Rising. So Jason is an absolute legend, and he's going to be doing a masterclass on leadership. So make sure you put it in your calendars, July 13th at noon, much to the chagrin of our members in Hong Kong and West Coast and stuff like that. So anyway, we are super, super blessed to be joined today by somebody who is a legend in Brandi Chastain. For those of you who don't know, and I think this introduction probably doesn't need to be done, but I'm going to do it anyway. She was NCAA Player of the Year. She's a two-time World Cup champ. She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. She was on the national team from, I think, 88 to 2004. She's in the Hall of Fame. She's a broadcaster. She's an author of a great book. If you've got kids in sports, grab this book. It's fantastic. And I would, just for the Brandi's rules on the back, is worth the price. But we are super blessed to have Brandi with us today. Her husband, Jerry, just won a national championship with her alma mater, Santa Clara, in an upset of Florida State, which was a crazy, thrilling game. So they just won the national championship, and they're on a well-deserved quick vacation. But we're going to be talking with Brandi today about team building, which is something she knows from a coaching perspective and from her career as a legendary player. So Brandi, I cannot thank you enough for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the intro. I hope I live up to the hype.
I think so. I think there's a pretty good chance of that happening. So I'm going to dive into, I've got a million questions for you, but I know that so many people have questions for you as well. And so our membership is all about everything talent, and talent strategy almost starts with team building. The teams you build ultimately dictate whether you win or lose in sports or in the military or in corporate America. And you've seen that done at its highest level. And I think team building, there's a gazillion teams out there, but there are very few championship teams. So there's a huge gap between a team and a championship team. And you've been very fortunate to play on a lot of championship teams. So I'd love to start with your thoughts of, what sets those teams apart? What sets a championship team apart from just a team, just in a collection of people who are a team, but not a championship caliber?
Oh, gosh. Well, first, I think you have to have a collective group who understands the objective. right? So we all have our personal desires, and we all want to be personally successful. I think the culture that is surrounding championship teams is absolutely paramount to most everything. You know, even if you have the most talent, you may not win the championship. So that we see that all the time. You've got a lot of talented people. You think you have them in the right place, but the culture isn't uh, isn't developing this kind of prosperous team first mentality, and so that really can get in the way. And from my experience with the national team, and also with watching Jerry and his teams, that what the team does first matters most.
Yep.
And I think you and I have gone back and forth about these discussions, and which I really, really love. And I think understanding your role, your responsibility, and how it ties into everybody else's role and responsibility, and when can we get outside of those things, when should we get outside of those things, and when do we have to stay in them, I think is really important. I'll give you an example of a very small, minor detail that really changed the core. We wouldn't be having this conversation if this didn't happen. So Christine Lilly was a longtime teammate of mine, and she has played more international games than anybody on the planet, male or female. And so Christine understood the importance of doing her job really, really well, and understanding, I think, the details. So we were playing China in the final in the Rose Bowl in '99, and we went to overtime. So now in overtime in the World Cup, it was golden goal, which means if anybody scores, the game would immediately be over and the winner would be crowned the champion. So we are, we're exhausted. We are into 100 minutes now into the game, and China gets a corner kick and they swing a ball into the box. Now we've got the best goalkeeper in the world in Brianna Scurry, and we're very confident that she has dominated the box. She is like she wouldn't mind me saying that. She's a beast in the box. She was, and so but we all had our responsibilities, and Christine's responsibility was to stand on the near post, inside the near post. So if this is the post, Christine would stand here. So that would allow Brianna to kind of go out to get a ball if she saw that it was dangerous and she could get it. So as the ball comes across, the Chinese player out jumps our defender and heads the ball back towards Brianna and the near post. And all you could see is Brianna goes for this big dive, and her super long arms, really big hands, and the ball just goes right past her fingertips, and it's going into the goal. Only there's Christine Lilly, jumps up, heads the ball out, the ball gets cleared, and now the game goes on. And I think that moment got overlooked a lot because of the celebration at the end. But what I really love about that is that everybody was willing to do the smallest detail. And it's really the small details that make the big moments happen. And so the fact that Christine Lilly in that moment did her job was tremendous. That she didn't get bogged down with, I think, this concept that most people have a tendency to do, which is you see something out there that looks more interesting and you say, well, I've never had to make a play here, and I've never seen her make a play there. That was her position every game, every practice, and I never saw her have to make a play. So she easily could have wandered away from that detail and said, I think that looks dangerous or interesting, or I'm going to go there. And if she had, we would have lost the game. So I think that idea, the culture of the responsibility that we have to one another, the responsibility to the detail, the responsibility to each moment, creates a culture of awareness. And I honestly think trust, because if you have that trust that Christine's going to be in her place when she needs to be, you can do your job well, she'll do her job well, and we'll come out on the positive side.
Phenomenal. And I think you guys did win that game. I think that, and I think,
yeah, as far as I
I
remember,
think people
yeah.
might remember that celebration at the end.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about what it's like, because we all, as there's a lot of CEOs, a lot of leaders on this call, that have to bring high performers together and get them to, for lack of a better term, play nice in the sandbox together. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that highlights that more than the teams that you played on, because you played with a bunch of iconic players. What do you think the secret is, Brandi, to getting high performers to play well together and not make it all about themselves?
Well, this is a tough one because, of course, as high performers, we have elite desire, we have elite commitment. We've probably spent the amount of time, over the amount of time to be in these positions, right? So that's important, obviously. But I think, again, we'll go back to the culture that leadership creates. And that is that everybody matters. Everybody matters. It didn't matter if you were the youngest player at 17 in Cindy Parlow, or you were the oldest player, and I won't say who that was at the time. It didn't matter, because everybody's contribution was going to help us towards that objective, which was to win, right? Was to win the championship. So we quickly had this, we knew teams were always evolving. We always knew that there was a chance that a new player would come in, a player would leave. And that's a reality to teams that happens. And so, I have multiple perspectives on this, because I was the player on the bench. I was the player that and didn't play very much at all. So I was on the bench a lot. Then I was the player who came off the bench from time to time. And then I was the starting player. And then I was the player who was kind of, again, in between. So I think it's very important that we embrace everybody's strengths, that we cheer each other on, because ultimately, if my teammate is successful, so will I be. And at the end of the day, smiling is much easier than frowning. It takes less muscles and less effort. And
what time Rebecca comes in on Friday?
Our team was really great at this mantra, right? We understood that if I wasn't in the game, meaning, the collective I was not in the game, what could I do to impact the game? So we had a battle on the sideline of who could get the water to the field the fastest, right? And who could help with, a cold towel, or whatever it was that they needed when they needed it. And so this is very important. You embrace the opportunity when it comes your way. So I've had leadership thrust upon me, and I've had to be ready for leadership moments. And so I think that is very important for each player. It doesn't matter if you're the newest player, the most veteran player, or somewhere in between. You will have to lead. You will have to take charge. You will be the one making a big moment. And if everybody in that group wants to be successful, they will embrace the special qualities of each one of those players and support them when they need it the most.
So I think oftentimes people think of team building and they think of one specific person. So in this case, maybe they think of, Coach DeChico, who put that team together in '99. But the culture of a team, certainly the head coach or the person, who's making selections and making decisions plays a huge role. But talk to us a little bit about that culture that goes beyond, that team building component that goes beyond kind of that just one singular person that makes the decisions?
Gosh, we had so many different personalities on so many of our teams that, and to be honest with you, the beauty of teams is that we all are unique. We all have special gifts and talents. And again, I think we go back to that trust in the culture that's created by leadership, but I think that is now trickled down and to the players, and the ownership of that belongs to everybody. I specifically remember many times when a teammate of mine didn't come from the same place and didn't have the same ideals as everybody else. And I thought that made her like the wild card, right? And I think at first it wasn't embraced. It was, hey, fall in line with what we're doing, or you might not fit in. And that was a long time in the making of understanding why that player is really valuable. And so I think we have to get past just, this is the way we do things. Yes, it is. And we have to do those things. But also, can we embrace the unique qualities of each person? And I think that's what Tony, as the leader, allowed our team to do. He allowed us to shine in moments where it maybe wasn't the way we would do it or the way he would do it. And it came out all right. And I think once you can embrace those special qualities of players, it makes a huge difference. I think it allows them to bring their full, robust, the best self possible, without inhibition and without feeling judged. And you know what? We'll all make mistakes, Scott. We know that. We know that for sure. So I think getting over that hurdle early in teams is really important. We used to do from time to time team building exercises where we went away from our camp into a very neutral place. It was run by somebody outside of our team. And I remember them specifically saying, let go of who's in charge, let go of who you thought you were, and just bring your best self to this next exercise. And that doesn't mean you're going to get it right. And some people are going to understand how to do it better than you, or maybe you're going to be the leader this time, but allow that to happen. And so I think that really gives players and people in business and on your teams the autonomy to make decisions and to know that somebody's going to have their back, even if it doesn't go perfect. Someone's going to be there to encourage them or to pick them up or to really fulfill whatever the next job is in the sequence. So I thought that for me was a positive. And the more silly, the more funny, the more like you got to get way outside of your comfort zone, the better.
I love it. So I have another question for you, but we have a member that wanted to say hi, and she's got to jump off at 12:30. So okay. I'm going to bring up Heather Monahan. Heather, say hello to Brandi.
Brandi, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to get to see you right now.
Hello.
We're not quite in real life yet, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. I am so grateful for you taking the time and being so thoughtful to give me that endorsement for my new book. It means the world to me.
Well, listen, number one, women who are empowered, empower women. So that for me is critical. And anything for me that's a positive, sheds positive light, helps people, can influence positive change, supporting people. I'm pumping my fist. I would take off my shirt this morning, but nobody needs to see that 25 years later. You know what I'm saying? So
well, just so you know,
Heather.
I'm here to support you any way possible. I so look forward to meeting you in real life, working with you, supporting you, and I'm really, really grateful. And I wanted to ask you a question to that point. You know, my experience in corporate America was I was surrounded by some women who were not supporting me. And I took the strategy of turning a blind eye to it and trying to look away, which really backfired on me and didn't propel me forward. I was wondering at any point in your career, if you witnessed that happening on a team or if that happened to you and how you handled it.
Well, I think, just to the story earlier about one of my teammates who, she was definitely different. She came from a very unique upbringing. Nobody had an upbringing like hers. And so that made her unique. I think she had a very independent spirit and really found embracing other people difficult. But I saw her as being such an important cog to our wheel that without it, we would have this hiccup, right? And so for me, I'm always the get closer person, get closer. The closer you get, the less it's going to hurt. The closer you get, the more you feel at ease. So I've experienced that. I've experienced also being the starting player and then being on the bench. And now I'm cheering for the person who's in my position. And I think for women, especially, that was the hardest thing, I think, in business. My mom wore a suit to work when no other moms were doing that in the mid 80s. And, she showed me that, you had to be brave and you had to stand up for yourself, but you also had to support other women in these opportunities, because there's not going to be just one opportunity. There will be more if you encourage more to belong. So I think those two for me are really critical. Get closer, even if they might want to push you away, get closer and just continue to support them, because your turn will come. Leadership moments, your turn, they will certainly come, and what you want to be is ready. And that for me is a daily reminder about how I can be a better coach. I'm trying to be a better parent. I can be a better friend. So that's how I do it for me, Heather. And I feel like it's been working so far.
I think it's working for you, and I'm so grateful that that's your strategy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too,
Heather. All right, we will talk soon. So I actually I have a ton of questions, but people are probably sick of me asking questions. So I know that people would love the opportunity to ask you a question. I already had some people send me some early so that they could queue up and get in line early. So we are going to go to a great friend of mine, a longtime 20-year plus Navy SEAL commander, John McCaskill, and his wife, Becca. So John McCaskill, you're up with Brandi Chastain.
Well, thanks, Scott. First off, I want to turn it over to this beautiful, empowered woman. This empowered woman right here to ask a question. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to turn it over to my wife just to say something, and then I've got a question for you, Brandi.
Brandi, I'm totally fangirling over here. So our 4-year-old is actually named after Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan. So we love all of you guys, but it's a pretty good name.
No
pretty
pressure.
Good name. Yeah, pretty good.
But I just wanted to thank you so much for what you did for women's sports. Like, I feel like emotional just to be able to talk to you. So thank you. You rock.
Well, don't make me cry. Oh my goodness. Well, first and second of all, I love that you're repping the jersey. That's awesome. But we might need a new one with another star on there, I think, even though that's a nice one. Yeah, that might be coming soon, right?
My sister stole the old 99ers jersey I had, so I'm not bitter.
Oh, we'll have to find a way to get that back. And second, I'd like to say thank you very much for your service. As a daughter of a former Marine, and my 2 grandfathers were in the military, I really appreciate your commitment to protecting everybody. So thank you.
And that's both of us. Becca served in the Navy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm also fanboying over here, but I'll tell you, my question has to do with mental health. And I saw that you have donated your brain to science to study concussions. And as a father of little ones, and I'm sure future athletes, but again, no pressure on them. What would you say we can do to make sports safer for our children and for adults, specifically in the mental health arena?
Oh, that's a really big question, right? I think that that encompasses a lot. So just to start with, I think the first one that comes to my mind is what we've done in soccer, which is we create positive change by influencing rules. So US Soccer used to have a guideline saying we don't recommend players 10 and under head the ball. But if it happens, okay, well, it happens. So there was a lot of push to have that changed. And so that age is now to 11, which now anything under 11 cannot head the ball in games. So I think number one is, I think rules are there to protect players and to establish guidelines for safety. So that's the number one thing that we can do. I think, just like we check in with our players physically, we should regularly check in with them mentally. And I think having a support person on staff, if that's available, is absolutely paramount to the success of any team. We have a coach who knows the X's and O's and the tactics. We have, the physical strength trainer who gets us prepared so that we can hopefully stave off injury. I think 3 is, we would work with a sports psychologist in the team building capacity. And I think we need that 4th person who is strictly designed to help us in the mental health space, which is, are you in the place that you need to be? Just asking questions and listening, because as we know, as elite athletes and elite in your positions in your jobs, that's a lot of wear and tear. And, we need to make sure that we are okay first. And so for me, that would be if we have the ability and the resources, have a staff member that's there. Now, if I'm in youth sports, so that's not always, it's one coach usually, right? So, I think it's relying on the people around you. Is there a parent who has a specialty in mental health, or maybe we can get someone to donate their time to the organization or the league or the club. And we do regular check-ins for our kids. As a coach, this is what I do. Every time the kids come to the field, I go to each one of them and ask them, how are they doing? I bring in something they said from last week. Hey, I'm checking in about this. And so they know that I'm aware of what's going on for them. I think that allows them to either unload what they need to unload, or to know that they have somebody there that's supporting what they're doing. And that makes them feel, I think, powerful and taken care of. For me, that's a big one.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brandi.
You are more than welcome. See you, little one. Looking
So
forward
I'm
to seeing you on the
gonna
field.
actually bring somebody up now they don't even know they're coming up. And I'm gonna ask the question for them. So I've got a good buddy on the call. He was in the Rio Olympics, triathlete, Joe Malloy. I call him Hot Lap. It's a whole nother subject. So Joe, come say hello. And I'm asking the question for you.
The best questions are the ones Scott asks
Joe!
for you. What's up, Brandi?
Jen's here too. What's up,
Jen?
Jen?
We got this.
Yay.
So
We couldn't
Jen
miss
is
this.
We see each
Santa
other
Clara
now.
Bronco.
Yeah,
Like
Bronco.
Brandi. So the question, Brandi, on a scale of 1 to 10, birdie
Oh,
bites
brother.
are the greatest thing you've ever tasted, or talk to me about
Oh,
that.
They are like an 11 plus, because I take them out to the golf course, and hopefully, you guys don't mind, I have mashed it into a milkshake. And so I use it in all different ways. I have it with a banana. I have it out on the golf course. I put it in my ice cream. I love them. They're phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
I want to know, are there other flavors?
we're working on it. We're working on it. We
Okay.
can't just give it all up right away.
Right.
Got you.
You know, we
Got you.
gotta-
I love. Well, I think the one you have is perfect, but I'm just was curious.
Oh, thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump the line and just ask a follow-up question, because I noticed the subtitle of your book is putting the fun back in competitive sports, and just an example of how you do that in something you're working on right now and why you think it's important.
Well, I didn't start playing sports, because I thought I would win the World Cup and have my picture taken. I started playing sports because it was fun. It made me feel good. I love to compete with myself and against other people. And so I think putting the fun back in sports, I think as we all can see, you know, sports right now for youth is going towards, you only have to play one, right? You have to choose so early. And I feel for a lot of kids, that's not as fun, right? And so if I want my son or other kids to come back to playing, you know, having a good time is important. So, and I'm the biggest kid. So for me, I want to be on the field, and I love having fun, and I love good high fives. And I love the moment, Joe and Jen, when, you know, you're in the heat of the moment and something awesome happens, and you can look across to your teammate and you lock eyes and you're like, without saying a word, you're like, I got you. Like we just did that. That thing was amazing. And I have chills just thinking about that, because that's what sports allows, you know, us to experience, right? This connection with other people, this aha moment, I can't believe I just did that. And now we get to look at someone and be like, yep. And we're like, that keeps us together forever. Like that's the fun that I love. And I want to help make that more prosperous for all these young people who are coming to sports for all the right reasons. And I want them to stay in it for the rest of their lives, because they just had so much fun they couldn't stop.
I think Joe and Jen are both people that have a lot of fun. And I tell the story all the time. First time I met Joe, and Meg and I are climbing this mountain with Jesse Isler and a bunch of others. And Joe is sprinting up the mountain with the grin on his face like this.
Yes.
And we're like, who the hell is this guy? What is wrong with him? So he was having fun. We were dying, and he was having fun. All right.
But even when you're in, when it's the hardest, right? Even when it's the hardest, that might be the best time to embrace that. Oh my gosh, how incredible is this? And for a long time, I'll say, Scott, I didn't embrace that. When I got out of that youth sports and into that national team, for a while, it was grinding on me, because I was afraid. And talking about mental health earlier, and I was paralyzing myself with, what if I don't make it to that marker, or if I don't beat the time? What if I don't get to there? And that just like it made me so afraid, and I was stopping myself from really enjoying those moments. So, you know, when it's hard, I hope everybody walks away from this discussion today with this takeaway, which is, when it is hard, find that happy place and then smile and push one more time, and you'll see that you can do it. Because I didn't believe for a long time that I could, and that kept me from all the other good things inside that I didn't even know existed. So I love that Joe was running up the mountain with this big grin on his face when everybody felt like, you know, either their lungs were going to burst or their heart was going to come up out of their, you know, just like their legs are burning. Like that's the moment when, if you go, okay, let's go, and you do, you're like, no, that's just so euphoric. That's amazing.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, we're going to Pennsylvania. We're going to Tyler.
God, thank you so much for the question. And Brandi, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us. I really want to dive into the world class and Olympian mentality. Although I myself am never going to win a World Cup Olympic medal, I do have some world class goals from a professional and personal standpoint. So as you were coming up, what did goal setting look like for you? Did you have any visualization practices? Like, what was your mentality of when you were not at that level yet on your way?
Well, I'm going to take you way back first, Tyler, to when I was just starting soccer, when nobody in my neighborhood was playing and nobody in my family knew anything about soccer. When it finally came to my neighborhood, we signed up. I was 8, and nobody volunteered to be the coach. So my dad said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." You know, he knew football, he wrestled, he was in the Marine Corps, and so he had some team. He obviously had team experience. He had sports experience, but not soccer. So we went to the library. So literally, I got a book. One of the 3 or 4 books there. I got the one VHS tape and I watched it. So talking about the visualization, I started to see soccer and be like, I'm going to try that. And then I think what you have to do is you see something that you want to emulate, but then you have to have the guts to get out onto the field or into wherever it is that you are, and then try it. Because what's going to happen is what I said earlier, you're going to make mistakes. And I think we all have to go back to that, what babies are like. They're not afraid to try things because they don't know any better, right? And so it seems so simple, but it's true. You have to put yourself out there and try those things and fall over the ball so many times. I always tell my teams of my youth level teams, for sure, and I applaud them. I'm going to applaud you when you fall down, because that means you're on the edge, right? You're on the edge of getting something new in your toolbox. And that's really the mentality that we have to have. And, as I progressed from this youth player into this collegiate player and then into the professional and World Cup Olympic player, it was honing those skills of the focus, elongating the ability to stay in the moment, right? Because that's really difficult. As humans, we can only stay in the moment. I think science has shown over time is getting shorter and shorter now. I think with technology that's becoming shorter. So, how can I stay in the moment longer? And when I see myself or feel myself getting out of it, how do I get back to it? So practice. It's practice. Have some kind of cue that will get you back. For me, it was tightening my ponytail. It didn't distract me enough away from what I was doing that it got in the way, but it reminded me of get back into what you need to do. So I would say to everybody out there, find something. Teammates of mine wore a little rubber band on their wrist, and it would be a little bit of a pull. It would be pull your socks up. For me, it was, tighten your ponytail. So something like that can be your trigger to get back into the moment. And now the times in between that focus is getting longer and longer, and you're getting more done, and you're finding yourself in that zone for a good amount of time.
Great advice. And I'm excited to see Tyler do his ponytail. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm tightening it right now.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Mohun,
Brandi.
come on.
You got a ways to go, my man. All right, we're gonna go to Florida. Randy, you're up.
Hello. I have a quick question, and thank you, Brandi, and thank you, Scott. I never really followed soccer as a kid, but I saw the picture of you, and I think if I ran across you down the street, I would recognize you. Is that something that became annoying as your life went on?
Absolutely not. And this is the reason. That moment has stayed alive, thankfully through technology and YouTube. But the great thing about it for me, Randy, is that women's soccer was so anonymous, right? For so long. And, we wanted to share soccer. And like you said, you didn't grow up watching it. You didn't grow up playing it, perhaps. And so you weren't really exposed to the great things that were happening in soccer. So anytime someone comes up to me and say, I was at that game, or I saw that, and here's what it meant to me. For me, I get to now have a real robust conversation about why did it influence you? What did it mean? How did it impact the way you thought about things? How did it change your opinion about something? And so now I get to have a conversation with somebody who either maybe I didn't have any connection to, saw the moment completely different than me, and now I can have a new perspective on what it meant. So for me, it's opening a conversation and hopefully changing for the better somebody's perspective of, women's soccer. Because of course, for me, I love the game and I want to share it as much as possible. And I'm happy to say that, young girls playing soccer is the richest, deepest, most amazing well of talent that we have in this country. And pretty soon, sorry to everybody else, but we're going to take over. Hopefully that will mean good things. But I think it's been an anonymous group for a long time, but it's a very rich, deep well. And that experience has allowed me to meet people where they are and to hear how it impacted them. And it's really changed, I know, the course of my life.
Thank you. From my perspective, you're the face of women's soccer. And even though it's 2 decades later, you still look the same. So when you walk down the street, I would imagine people are still stopping you and going, hey, you're that person. So thank you for your time and thank you for the answer.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, Randy.
All right, we're going to Maryland. Eric Silverman, you're up.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Brandi. Appreciate it. So my daughter is a huge soccer fan. She's 12. She plays and she plays other sports, gymnastics, black belt in Taekwondo, softball. But my wife and I are having a hard time getting her to embrace the idea of trying out for travel teams and getting even more competitive. And she won't admit it, but we think she's nervous. She doesn't want to be cut. She doesn't think she's good enough, stuff like that. And there's only so much we can do. My wife coaches soccer. I'm the softball guy, so I don't know anything about soccer. No disrespect. What do you do? What would you say? You have a girl on your rec team, you coach youth sports, and you want to encourage her to try out. Whether she's good enough or not is irrelevant. We just want her to try.
Yeah, I think that this is a big hurdle, I think, for a lot of, I see it in girls sports more so than I see it on the boys side. I coach boys too. And I am wowed by their self-perception, and whether that's overinflated by a million times, or just really, owning confidence. They don't seem to have as much of a problem with it as young girls. So I would go to her and I would share that not everybody makes their first team that they try for. And that doesn't mean that you're not good enough. You're just not ready now. And so I think the fear of that is real, and that's okay. I think we have to own that too and say, listen, even the best players didn't make the team all the time. I was a World Cup champion. You can tell her. I was a World Cup champion. And then after the 91 World Cup, I was cut from the team. I wasn't on the team again for 4 years, right before the 96 Olympics. And so I had a lot of things that I had to do. I had to figure out some things internally. I had to externally do some work. And so it's okay. It just means she's not ready now, but she could be. And so let's try. Trying never hurt anyone. And my mom taught me a long time ago, you're going to hear no a lot. You're just the solution to hearing no is find your yes. That's it. The way you see it might not be the same as somebody else, but you can't be afraid to ask the question or give something a go because you might hear no. Don't be afraid. Tell her she can call me anytime she needs.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'm not just going to tell her, I'm going to show her this clip because Scott always is good.
Perfect.
His team sending these out. So thank you, team Scott. Thank you again, Brandi.
You're welcome. Thank you, Eric.
We're going to go to Colorado. Mr. Energy, Scott Garber.
Brandi, what's going on?
What's up, Scotty?
Good to see you.
You
so
too.
it wouldn't be a masterclass, I feel like, if I didn't ask a question, but I want to bring it back to the team building side of things. So Brandi, going back to 99, there was a whole group of women that, took the US team, and, you were ultimately the one that pushed it across the edge. And then you became this global icon. What did you do internally to stay grounded and make sure that you were still part of the team and not let the notoriety or fandom sort of go and make you feel like you were above everyone else as it was a team venture to get and push it across the line?
Thanks for the question, Scott. I think first and foremost, it was, I had great examples of Mia Hamm and Michelle Akers. They were the face of women's soccer prior to, that moment at the World Cup. And they carried the load for all of us. And they did it so gracefully and graciously. And they were always team first. Everything they did was about how could I help the team? Or, if ever asked, you were so great in that game. Well, my teammates really carried me, or I couldn't do it in that moment with, I can't score goals unless somebody supplies me the ball. So I thought, I think for me, it was one, never an option. That just would not have been an option in this group, in this environment, or, even just the things I saw growing up. So, their leadership really gave me great counsel about what great leaders look like, and what does a moment, what can a moment do for one person, but really showed me how to spread that wealth across and allow other people to carry the weight. You're right. Carrying the weight alone is not easy, and to share it is really, really the way it goes. I mean, listen, our teams carried every bag, every ball, every goal, every, water bucket. We carry our own luggage. Like nobody had things, nobody said, hey, yeah, grab my bag over there. Like nobody said that. Even if we could have, and people would offer, absolutely not. We will all carry the load together. And so that really made an impression on me. And, humbly speaking, Scott, I made one kick, but a million other things had to happen before that one kick occurred. And without those million things, that never would have happened. So it never came into kind of my view of having that turn into anything but like, this is about what we did. This is how, good teams and how, these are the outcomes of good teamwork and good team building. So that was never an option.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks for sending the ladder back down for all of us to learn from you and, your journey. I mean, I take nuggets every time we get a chance to talk. So thanks again for everything.
Great to see you. Looking good in Colorado.
Hey, come out and visit. You're more than welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to try to squeeze in 2 more questions. So we've got Mark Moyer in New York, and then we've got Chad in California. So we're going to go to you first, Mark.
Hey, Brandi, how's it going? Good to see you again, as always.
Mark, looking good.
Cool. Super fast. We haven't really talked much about what's keeping you busy these days, but maybe you can make an ask out of people out there and tell them, if what you're doing today, maybe if some of these folks can make some intros for you at some point, that might be cool.
Wow. Look at you being a good teammate for me this morning. Look at us. Well, I think first and foremost, I was in sports for so long as a player that, and during a time when nobody talked about transition, and transitions are really important. I think transition in sports is the most critical piece of any game, right? Whether it's you've lost the ball, how do you get it back? Or you don't have the ball, how do you get it? And then how do you keep it? And nobody talked about transitioning out of sports. And so now I'm working with a tech company called City Cheers. And we have a consumer facing mobile app that connects locations, restaurants and bars to patrons who live, love, work, and visit your area. And of course, that is something that hopefully will catch fire because it's the safest, most secure way to pay. It's ease of use about finding out what's going on around you, whether that's live events or live specials. But I'm looking for anybody who owns a restaurant, owns a bar, who is in the point of sale dealers, anybody who has a restaurant group, anybody who's connected to maybe processing payments, anything. If you are in that space, let's talk, because who knows, we could be the next greatest thing together. Thank you, Mark. That's nice.
Okay, great.
You're the best.
Thanks for setting that up. That was great. That was great. All right, we're going to end it with Chad. Bring us home, Chad.
Yeah, thanks, team. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Brandi. Well, yeah, great question, because that just got my mind spinning living here in Newport Beach, California, where
Awesome.
got a lot of bars and restaurant friends out here. In addition to, I know Julie and Joy are local too, and actually
Right.
had Joy Fawcett join us in my networking group here locally out of Southern California, comprised of former athletes. But my question is, and I think Tyler stole a little bit of the thunder. Great question, Tyler. I was curious about, you know, for many of us, yourself as an elite high performer, and us in the business realm, I always enjoy understanding people or someone's inflection point. Like, really, what was that springboard? And I think Tyler touched on it a little bit. So my closing question here, I'm curious to know, another thing I like to know about people is, if there's one person you were to have a meal with, knowing you've been around a lot of influential folks, who would that be and why?
Well, my that's emotional for me, because my mom and dad passed away quite a few years ago, and my mom and dad were both very influential on the person I am. I think the parent I am, the parent I hope to be, and they were just such terrific parents that I miss them so much. So I would, you know, not to say my mom was better than my dad, but, you know, as a woman, somebody she was my role model. I mean, my mom is probably the person who I would want to have dinner with, because I could ask her a million questions about, you know, who I was as a kid, and, you know, why did I do the things I did, and can she help me with being a better mom? And she was just a role model. She didn't have higher education. You know, she had no experience in working in the tech space, and somehow she became a vice president of a company through hard work and determination and an amazing personality. So I think she is the person I'd choose. You know, how did she find this resiliency? And somehow I think she gave it to me, but I wanted to know, like, how she got it in a time when, you know, Title IX was not present for her, and people weren't championing young girls to be successful and to be leaders and to be vice presidents. And so for me, what she did was way more impactful than I feel like what I've done. And I would like to learn more from her. I didn't have her long enough.
That's neat. Appreciate the authentic response there. Yeah, especially with Father's Day, we all know how important our parents are. Thanks for sharing.
Hey, Chad, let's talk sometime. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, it's just pretty neat. No, Joy and her family, she's connected to our group out here. Gosh. And she came on. It was probably 2019. And it's just funny, you're talking about some of the conversations earlier about the mental health, and she shared some of the same sentiments. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Joy was. I want to share something about Joy for everybody, because I think this goes to building good teams and the types of personalities you need in your team. Joy came to practice and, you know, quote unquote work, believing she was not on the team, and every day she came to make the team, and I found that amazing, and that really rubbed off on me, because I felt I was pretty good, right? I think as a young player, I was, you know, when you make it to that elite level, you know, you're usually the best player on your young team. And so now you get into an environment where everybody's had some success and everybody feels like they're the best player. But Joy, though she was, I think, deep inside, she had confidence, but she never really believed it. So she came every day to be her best and to impress the coach and to impress her teammates and to do the right thing and make the right play. And that has stayed with me to this day. So Joy Fawcett is one of my favorites. I met her my first year in college. We went to Cal together, and that mentality and that work ethic has held true. She always does things to the best of her ability. She never cuts corners, and she's always there for team. And when she says something, you better listen, because she doesn't often speak up, but when she does, it's usually pretty empowering.
We are going to end. We have a special member in Vermont, Catherine, who didn't have a question, but just wanted to say something to you. So Catherine, you're up.
Hi, thank you. There are people closer to the Equal Pay Jersey who are actually on this call. And we just wanted to say thank you for supporting the movement and the jerseys and all that you've done for women's soccer. And this is Cameron. She's 13 and she plays soccer.
Cameron.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hopefully we can somehow, somewhere, someplace meet on a soccer field and we can talk all things soccer, but you can always reach out to me if you need to. And I just want to say that this, pay equity space this conversation is exhausted because it's been going on for a long time. Even though this team has really embraced this work, this is 30 years in the making with this women's national team, and the unwavering, unflappable pursuit of getting there is incredible. But I hope one day, Cameron, for you, this conversation won't be happening and that we will have moved past it, because we understand that if you do a job, you get paid the same, because your worth, your value is equal to somebody else's who's doing that. So I hope that we will move past this and you don't have to have this. But if we aren't and we do, then you will continue this march, please. That would be awesome. Yeah,
Brandi,
there we go.
I love it. I cannot thank you enough. You're an incredible friend. You're an unbelievable role model. We are super blessed to have you, and we know how valuable your time is. So thank you for carving some out for us. We really, really appreciate it.
Without you and your group, honestly, I am standing side by side with you, right? We're all on this journey together, and I am really grateful for this opportunity. And if you ever need anything from me, you let me know, because I'm going to surely call on you.
No doubt. No doubt. Thank you, Brandi. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Brandi.
Thank you.
Take care, Cameron.
Bye. Thank you.
Use your left foot.
Yes. That's excellent advice.
You never know. You might have to take a penalty kick in the World Cup with it. Who knew? I never knew that was going to happen. So be ready.
Yeah.
Do not know
Awesome.
you were going to. So can you kick equally with both feet?
Yes, I can. But that was only because
So
of practice.
how do you decide what
I
you're going to
did
do?
it. The coach told me. The coach told me this. Yeah.
Is that normal?
So,
like, do they normally?
no.
Oh, really?
No way. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So quick story. I know we're I don't want to hold anybody up, but leading up to that final, our practices, as I think all practices should be, was open to the public. Anybody could come and watch. And so I think Tony was a little bit wary that everybody and China had been coming to our practices. So he made sure that when we did set pieces and free kicks, that we used both feet and we went to all different parts of the goal and all different types of shots, which was really fun for us because we would set up these fun little games. We called it baseball, where Christine and I would be a team and Michelle and Mia would be a team, and we'd have 3 outs. And if you missed the goal entirely, then you'd have an out. But if you got a corner kick, if the goalkeeper made a save, then you'd get 1 more out back. And so we would just take all kinds of different fun shots and just have a blast with it. And so I had to practice left foot, right foot, in the upper corner, in the middle, on the side, whatever. And so as we were about to go out to the middle, when we were just, being told about who would be taking a penalty, the assistant coach, Lauren Gray, came over to me and said, "Hey, do you want to take a penalty?" And I thought, of course I do, because in the run of play, I would have taken a penalty. So I said, yeah, of course. She goes, okay, fine. A couple minutes later, Tony came over and he says, okay, you're going to take a penalty. And I said, yep, Lauren and I talked about it, no problem. And he goes, okay, you're going to take it with your left foot. And then he like literally ran away like the road runner. He just sped away. And I think back now on that moment thinking, boy, I'm really glad I wasn't, that didn't get into my head, because I was so exhausted that I don't think I had any space left for anything, right? It just was going to take the kick. So I didn't overthink it. I just relied on what we all should rely on, which is we have what we need, and all that we have is all that we need. So that's it. I knew I had it, just going to go up there and do it just like practice. And because Tony was the guy who brought me back to the national team, I trusted the heck out of that guy. You know, he took me from being a forward to being a defender, something I'd never done before. You know, he asked me to kick it with my left foot. I'm going to do it because he had supreme belief in me, and therefore I should have belief that I could do it. And who knew? I'd never taken a penalty with my left foot before in a match. I'd done it many times in practice. And so, you know, being here as the, you know, it was the World Cup final, probably not the first time you should do it, but maybe that was the right thing, you know? It turned out all right. So I'm not going to question his leadership or his coaching. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So Cameron, don't be afraid. If the coach says, hey, you're going to play a different position, or, hey, I want you to do something you've never done before, just say, all right, you know, why not? If they believe you can do it, then that's two people who believe, because you should believe and they believe. So why not?
That's unbelievable.
Thank you so much for staying on a couple extra minutes.
Yeah,
of course.
we got a little overtime. I love it. I love it.
I like a little overtime, you know me.
Yeah. Jessica, who joined the college, her daughter was on the Vermont team that did the equal pay jerseys, and her organization is the one that did the printing of the jerseys and got all the national media. So Jessica, Brandi, hello. Yeah.
Jessica.
Hello.
That is phenomenal.
It was really quite an experience, and it was an honor to support the team. They were phenomenal, such amazing spokespeople for pay equity, and they ended up they have an equal pay fund now at the Vermont Community Foundation, and they raised over $55,000 to increase access to sports for girls and support efforts to close the wage gap. So it's,
where do I buy one?
Well,
you ran out, right? You ran out, I'm sure.
They are collector's items, but I think we can get you one. You did the tweet. I think you sparked some of the national and then international attention they received. They were so stoked to read your tweet about them and calling them role models.
Yeah.
And there's a great film, I included it in the chat, that one of the senior co-captains made, a 5-minute documentary about the experience. And in the interview, one of them says, like, she called us a role model. She's our role model. How can we be role models? But they also really learned that they had a voice and they had influence, and it was phenomenal. And it's had ongoing repercussions around pay equity here in Vermont and beyond. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Way to go,
we'll
girls.
get you a shirt. We got one for Christine Lilly, because one of the teachers at VHS was her cousin's roommate. And we got one to Abby because her mother is best friends with another teacher's mother.
So the pressure's on.
We didn't know how to get
one. You gotta get one to Brandi.
And Cameron bought Megan's when she did a soccer clinic with Megan Rapinoe and delivered it. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
it's
neat.
also interconnected. All the flows of positivity.
Well, I you know what? I think the world is connected, right? We all need to take care of each other. Doesn't matter where we come from, what we look like, you know, what our backgrounds are. You know, I've always believed in the more unique, the more diverse, the better.
Yep.
You know, it would be too boring otherwise. So with that, I'm going to say thank you all very much.
Have a fantastic day, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Yes, thanks, team.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.